Memvov, the line starts with the word Gilui Yosef.
Can I can I ask a point about yesterday?
Yes, let me just introduce. So we're discussing the Indian that the Nivroim are created by the effect of the Zivuk of Chochmah Bina, of the union between Chochmah and Bina. And although Chochmah Bina, that Zivuk is called Zivuk Ruchni, and we say that Zivuk Ruchni does not provide a nivro, a creation of self-presence, so to speak, of a real presence. It is only a ha'ora, a reflection about the real thing, but it doesn't have its own reality. And yet, the Nivroim do seem to have their own reality in the fact that they have moichin, they have seichel. And as we explained, moichin means that you have moichin expose you to a supreme truth, reality. In order to be able to identify with that, you have to have that reality in himself. And Malachim and Nivroim, Malachim particularly, they are masig, they actually can comprehend the Inyan V'Nolakus. Clearly they have a real presence. So to explain this paradox, let me explain that this Inyan, that they have this understanding of a Lakus, this is due to their connection to the source of their own source. Because everything in the world has a source l'mayla. I gave you the example. A rooster crows at Chatzois, at daybreak, at what's called when the next day begins. And this crow is to awaken the Shomis, awaken Eden to go to Avodas Hashem. This is a direct reflection of the Malach Mechoel L'mayla is arousing the Neshomis to go up to Gan Eden to say praise. Even though the rooster here Lamata does not perceive the effect of his crow, but in fact the overall truth in this crow is that he is arousing the world to Avodas Hashem, reflecting that which occurs Lamaila by the Mala Gabriel.
This rooster is an example of things being connected to their source.
Right. So there is a phenomenal reality over here, but it's not his own. It's a reflection of the effect of his connection to his source.
And the rooster remains unaware.
And the similar Indian is, this is just an example, so to speak. The similar Indian is all understanding, a saga in the Lakus that is to be found. Lamata is due to the lower creature recognizing and having an effect from its own source. Thank you.
Right, Paltiel?
Yeah.
I'm not completely sure I understand. Is it the idea that they themselves are not real? That it's only that they are perceiving a real source. Is that the contrast?
One second, repeat that. Repeat that. I don't get the question.
In other words, you mentioned, you said that the reason why they have a saga and elokuz is because they are have a connection or perceiving a reality in their source.
Yeah, they're perceiving, they're sensing from reality due to their connection to their source.
So where is the lack of reality in themselves?
That it's not on their own. And the proof in it is, that's what I'm saying, the raya is that should their source be revealed upon them without careful filtering as to what is provided. Now the source will be revealed to them not with an eye towards affecting them, that they should be able to process and relate to this, but just to reveal the source per se, they would cease to be. Because they do not have an independent, their own presence.
Only the source has presence.
Only the source has presence.
Mm-hmm.
And the source has presence, and so forth. Okay, I'll come to your question. Just want to point out the place where we are and just get us into this. The line sounds the word im hoyam meir aleim. That if their source should be meir upon them, hoy misbattle in the gamre, they would be in his battle totally. Vim kain, and thus that means harei gam beis mitziyusom. That it means that even while they are a presence, Eina Mitzias Amiti, they are not a true presence. Must be that they are presence. They're a presence reflecting their connection to their source. I have more to say on this, which I'd like to say, but you only have a question.
Yeah, I was thinking yesterday, and it's come up many times, we touched on the way that Mashpi and Makabel, and the way that the student has to work things, think into things himself, and then we had again the key impact, the key influence of the teacher. And I was trying to get clear on if something's true and the student kind of gains that insight, what is added, or what is the teacher's influence? That it gives it a real. I think yesterday it was said it substantiates it. So I was thinking, if it's true in itself, then it would seem to be okay. That's real, but yet the teacher brings something different.
There are several things to be said about this, and perhaps this would be the time to say it. To go back to our, so to speak, classic organization, a table as we encounter it is a physical structure. As such, it lacks any reality, any true presence. It was put together for a certain purpose, and it can be dismantled. But there's a spirit, there's an oir, there's an idea that brought it to be. And when you recognize the idea that brought it to be, then it becomes a real presence. But it doesn't. It's a real presence due to its representation of the idea, the human spirit. The table never becomes an entity unto itself, although it truly does represent a real entity, a real presence. What is the difference between the presence as it is in the table, per se, in its own, and the spirit that is bestowed upon it from the human intellect? I'll start from the top, because you'll be late with that. The human intellect perceives, conceptualizes a real product, a real presence, a real product, a final product. When we perceive a table, we don't perceive legs being attached to a board with nails. We perceive a real presence. Not only a presence, but a real significance, a spirit, a human intellect is represented in the table. As we speak many times. From that is bestowed a chitzonius, a ha'ora of that, into the structure of the table. Should the real sense of how this is in the human spirit be identifiable, then the presence of the table, the physical table, would cease to exist, cease to represent anything.
If the spirit of the idea was
right,
yes, was not present,
then we would not see the table as a structure. We would see just the spirit of it. The table is a structure.
You're losing me. If the table is structure, yeah.
Should you directly recognize the human spirit that created it, then you would not notice the structure of it.
Okay.
You would cease to be.
Cease to be, it would just be secondary. You would just see.
No, you would cease to be. You would cease to be something to be recognized, to be attended to, because you would directly relate to the spirit.
Okay.
What is the difference between the structure and the spirit that creates it? This is a little bit more subtle. How do we come to know the structure? There are many points at which we can start, but I'll start at the very beginning. How we see a table. How do we come to see the table? We encounter it physically. Something is in our way, and we actually examine it, and we get to understand how it's put together. In other words, we find out about the table not from the message that the table represents, the truth of the table, but from a means by which we identify it. Start from a non-entity, and then we follow it through, and we identify how it's built. This structured entity can never become a real presence. It is always a precarious existence, because of the means by which the way I found out about it. I found out about it because I took it apart and I saw the real different pieces that put it together. So it's not a real thing. it will never become a real thing. Only if I from this begin to identify with something which is essentially real, which is not a put together from pieces, like the human spirit.
Again, but it's not real because it's a found out thing, and then it was said what it'll only become real if what?
Only if it represents the human spirit, which is not a structure.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Now we explained many times, talking about a table. If you started from bottom up, the way of a human being, without having the spirit, it does research. What is it about? So the first thing you'll say, like I said, it's a physical structure. And what is it for? What is its function? People sit and eat by it, and it enables them to eat in a more comfortable way. So again, it's only functional. Only when you go a little further up, and after you go deeper and deeper, and you realize that this is not just an aspect of convenience. It's a necessity for the human being to sit by a table. And if he does not eat by a table, the Gemara says, he's not eating like a human being. It is not just an inconvenience. So now you're reaching to something which is essentially real. That's when you begin to see something of reality. As long as you're dealing just with the functionality, first the structure and then even the functionality, the convenience, is still not real. When you go to the real spirit, that this is about the human being, then the table is totally non-existent. If somebody asks you what's a table, he says, "Oh, it's a human spirit." What are you talking about? You'll tell me that it enables a person to eat more comfortably.
What's this last step here? As you identify the human spirit, the table becomes completely nullified?
Right, it's no longer, it loses its functionality.
Oh, but it still exists. We now perceive it as a.
It doesn't exist as an entity.
Not as a separate.
Right, it exists as a reflection of the human being.
Okay.
It's only in context of how the human being is utilizing it, how it reflects
the functionality. Even when you reach to a point of functionality, you already identify some kind of a real meaning. It's not just a structure.
Okay. Exists on a relation. Okay.
But when you identify the real thing, where it's coming from, why does a human being need a table? Why can't he eat lahavi like a dog, from the floor? Says no, but that's not human. So then it becomes you represent something really real.
Okay.
But then it's no longer a structured table. Then it's just the human spirit.
Right.
What kind of spirit is it? When you recognize this in the table, you're going to study the table, you're going to study the human being. You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You're not going to study how does the table provide comfort or whatever. That's not what you're about. What's a human being? You're talking about something completely different.
Right. And is the point here that the person cannot come to that on his own, that he needs the master to say it, then he works towards it?
the point, yes, the point more correctly is that anything that you find via a process of discovery, Milmata Lamaila, is not real in itself. Only that which is given Milmata, that has a reality. And this is what we're saying. The Malachim understand the Masig Elokus. How they Masig Elokus? They're not Masig Elokus by their own discovery. The Masig Elokus is because they are given that Hasoga from their source.
Okay. So just to return to the table for a moment. So if the Rav says this is the Mazbeach, or this is the Shulchan Shelifnei Hashem, however he gives out the truth of the table, then what's the student,
Rav is teaching you to
then
start
correlates. The student then starts to correlate with his own knowledge of the table.
The student is able to. the Rav is giving the student the truth of it, and therefore it touches the student at his intellectual truth.
What? Go again. The master gives the truth of it, and it starts.
And that touches the student at his intellectual truth. He says, "Oh yeah, it's a human thing," but he does not really have it on his own, except for the fact that the master revealed it to him.
Okay. And then all his experience till that date of physical tables kind of becomes absorbed into this new perspective, you could
Right.
say. Okay.
Like we spoke the other day, like Signoi, we got to go to the point where the whole possibility of Gneva does not exist. That is the real source of the Signoi. Remember that one, right?
Yeah. Okay.
All right. This is what he says. Therefore, it means that even while they do exist, they're not a Metzius Amiti. They're not a true presence. They're a presence only so far as they reflect their source. This is what the Rambam writes. This is what the Novi has said. This in the Rambam said that the principle of all principles is that there is Yeshom Motzu Rishi. There's a first being, and Amit is Himotzu Nimtekol Nimtzoim. From the truth of His presence, all the Nimtzoim come. So this is in fact referring to what the Novi said. Hashem Elikim Emes. Hashem Elikim is Emes. What is the point that the Novi says Hashem Elikim Emes? It's not a lie. No, the point that the Novi is making is Emes is Hashem Elikim. Shehu Levadoi Emes. This is still the words of the Rambam. That He alone is Emes, ve'en li'acher Emes kamitos. And there's none other that has a truth kamitos like His truth. But everything is created by Him and has its truth. But its truth is due to the bestowing of truth that comes from Him. Therefore, it's not Emes kamitose like His truth. All right. We reviewed about a half a line.
Keeping up.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Seid gesund.
Good day, everybody.
Call to you and have a good day.